Okay, we're way past Socrates now. He said, know thyself. We've talked about thyself, your team. We've talked about them, the other team. We've talked about the situation. The fourth category I mentioned when we first started was the conditions the game's being played under. By conditions, I mean the field conditions, weather conditions, those types of things. What's one thing about the field that could have a bearing on the ball that's going to the outfielder?
Whether the grass has been mowed lately or not.
Okay, the grass. You know, the grass the outfielder's playing on has a lot to do with how fast he gets the ball, or she gets the ball, to throw to home plate. They may have good speed, the ball's hit hard and all these kind of things, but if you're playing on real thick or high grass, what's the ball going to do? Roll fast or roll slow?
I think it would make it roll slower.
Okay, it's going to roll slow, right. High grass, thick grass is going to slow the ball down. And so it's going to take the outfielder longer to get to the ball. So you need to know something about the grass the outfielder's playing on. And in addition to how high or short it is or how thick or thin it is, you also need to know whether it's wet or dry. If the grass is wet, if it's early in the morning and there's dew, or if it's rained and the grass is wet, when the ball gets to the outfielders, the ball's going to be wet. And so the outfielder's grip on the ball is not going to be as good, their footing is not going to be as good, therefore their throw's not going to be as good. It's a little small thing maybe, but it could be the difference in a step. And that's the difference in an out or safe. And an out or safe is the difference in a run or not a run. And a run's the difference in winning or losing. So little things like the condition of the grass could be a major factor in whether a run scores or not and whether you win a ball game or not. Just like the grass, the condition of the dirt is a factor. You've got a runner coming around third base. If the infield dirt is hard, can the runner run faster or slower?
Faster.
Right, faster. You know, if the dirt's hard, you're going to run faster than if you're running on a beach, for instance. Some fields are real sandy, and you can't run near as fast on that kind of surface as you can on some hard surface. So just like the outfielder's got to be concerned with the condition of the grass, the runner needs to be concerned with the condition of the dirt, and you as a coach needs to know that. Also, the throw that's coming in, if the outfielder bounces it to home plate, it's going to go faster than it normally would if the dirt is hard than if the dirt is soft. So the condition of the dirt is a factor that you need to consider when you're coaching third base. And I guess kind of, you know, maybe blended in with all of this, the condition of the grass and the dirt is just the general overall condition of the field. The grass could be short and it could be thin where the ball rolls fast, but it also might be rough in the outfield. You need to know what the outfield condition's like. If it's a rough outfield surface, even though the ball rolls fast, it takes abnormal hops and the outfielder can't play those well. So if the outfield's rough, that's in your favor as a coach and as a base runner for the offense. So know the general condition of the field. And then not only do we need to know the condition of the field, we need to know something about, I guess we ought to call it weather conditions. Is it raining? You know, where's the sun? For instance, if the sun is behind the left fielder and it's getting late in the day and it's kind of down low and it's shining right in the catcher's eyes, here comes a great throw. All the conditions are right for the defense, but the sun's in the catcher's eyes and the catcher can't see the ball. So a weather condition is something that you also might want to consider, particularly where's the sun?
Gosh, it'd take a computer to remember all this.
You're probably right. You know, you had to think about a lot of different things. That's true. And a computer might be helpful when you think about all that you needed to know about your team and their team, the situation and the conditions the game's being played under. We mentioned a lot of factors, a bunch of them, and a computer could be helpful. You have a computer. You got one in your head if you think about it. On that little 6-inch square up there, maybe not quite shaped like a square, you've got the best computer that's ever been made. It's got something like 10 billion storage cells in your brain. No computer is close to that. The largest computer, your brain has about 250,000 times as many storage cells as the largest computer man's ever made. So yeah, you need a computer, and you got one. You got one right up there in your head. You need to use it. Now, you think about the fact you don't have time to consider all of this when the runner's coming from second to third base in maybe 3 or 4 seconds. How do you think of all of these things? Well, you don't. You think ahead. Most of these things you already should know. You ought to know how fast your runner is, how quick they are, what kind of judgment they've got, their physical condition, you know, what kind of base running mechanics they use. You need to know who your next hitters are. You ought to know something about the other outfielders. You ought to know something about the other team's catcher. You can look at the dirt before this happens. You can see what the grass is like before the ball game. You ought to know what inning it is. You ought to know how many outs there are. You ought to know what the score is. Basically all you've got to think about right now is how hard has the ball been hit and how quickly is it going to get to that outfielder. Did my runner get a good jump? You only have 2 or 3 things to think about right now and then make that decision. Now, thinking about all of these factors, it still comes down now to some type of a mathematical probability. Here comes the runner around second, the third, going home hopefully. You've got to decide whether to send them home. Are your chances better gambling on the outfielder's throw or gambling on your next hitter or hitter's batting ability to drive them in? You've got to decide. Is it 50-50 one way or 60-40 one way or whatever? And then you decide, well, I've got a better chance to score on this outfielder's arm, for instance, than I do on my next batter's. So I send them home. Are they going to be safe every time? No. You're going to be wrong sometimes. The outfielder's going to make a great throw. Your chances might be 80% scoring, 20% not to score, and so you send them. The outfielder makes that great throw, the catcher hangs in there, your runner slips or whatever, and they're out. And your parents think you're a dummy because you sent her home and she got thrown out. I remember this exact situation occurring when I was a college baseball coach. Coaching third base, runner on second, single to the outfield. I had to decide whether to send the runner home or not. 2 times in the first 4 innings, I chose to send the runner home. In both situations, the runner was thrown out. Now, the fans thought I was an idiot. I'm determined I made the right decision based on all of these factors. The runner was out because the outfielders made great throws in both situations. The decision was right, but the outcome wasn't what we were looking for because the defense did their job exactly right. 80% of the time, those 2 runners would have scored. 20% of the time, they would have been out. So the proper decision was to send them. The 20% happened to occur. When that happens to you, in those 20% of the situations, your parents of the players that you coach are going to think you're an idiot. 80% of the time, your runs are going to score and they're going to think you're a genius. You're neither. You're not an idiot, you're not a genius. You're just a human being trying to make the best decisions you can based on all the information you can gather about your team, the other team, the situation, and the conditions the game's being played under. That's what strategy is all about. That's the process we're trying to learn. And we've looked at that process in one situation in detail. We need to look at it in a few more situations, offensively and defensively, so that you really understand what this process of strategy is all about.